When you're born, you have 8 holes in your head. See, this is intelligent design. This can't be coincidence. You can't evolve to that. Like, it can't just so happen 2 cells just kept bumping into each other till you made people, as opposed to giraffes, as opposed to hippopotamus. Like, you know what the odds is on that? 8 holes in your head at birth. If we're not actively taking care of our body, somebody else is. Right? Either you're a slave or a master. Period. You don't know what's going on in your body, that means you're somebody's slave. Period. Because I'm putting the program in your body, you don't know what the program is. Everything you eat makes you do something. So if you don't know what it is you're eating, you don't know why you do what you do. And then number 64, 8 squared, 8 times 8. All right? 8 times 8. We have to understand this. The Khemetic. Who is the Khemetic? Let's see who's awake. The Abdo. The Egyptian deities. This number 64. All right? In terms of light, perception, attention, focus, all of these things, this number 64 is the magic number for it. All right? Now, one of the things that our scholars have not touched on in terms of the Abdo to the Khemetic is that it's telling us something about our ancestors. See, everything meant something. So when they codified the 8 foundational forces that create all life in the universe into these 8 deities, and out of, what, 7 letters of their name, 4 of them spells out black, they're letting you know that those forces are also black. They're letting you know that those forces are black. All right? That's very important for us to get. They're letting you know that those forces are black. All right? So I go through for some of the people that need it. So I won't go through it for you. But it's here for people that need it. It's in the presentation. All of the translations so we get it. Right? We need to see that. Right? So it's not just Minister EnQi. Minister EnQi comes with the word, the hieroglyph, the definition. I'll give you the thorough. You're going to get the whole thing. Right? You get the whole thing. And you'll get where to go look it up for yourself. Right? You get the whole thing. All right? You even get a grammar. You even get an Egyptian grammar lesson. All right? In Egyptian, the adjective precedes the noun. When the noun represents anything sacred or holy. Otherwise, the adjective follows the noun. Important to know. All right. All right. So back to the important stuff. The and the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Heru. Right? Those are the 2 keys to understanding our genetics. All right. Who's heard of the Eye of Heru before? The Eye of Horus. Okay. This is very important. That's good, because it was good that I have this here. The Eye of Horus is very important. So our ancestors used stories and pictures to do that. So that's why we use the hieroglyphs, because the glyphs communicated higher physical sciences, but even the mundane stuff, such as how much, for instance, for Egyptian doctors, they used this to break down how they would give out prescriptions. They used this to have a working understanding of how, I can't go back. But the reason why I was showing light and perception is because this is what these percentages are. These fractions are how much light and perception, how much energy our body actually gives. Multifaceted mnemonic device, very important in terms of what we're going to get to here. All right? This was also an ancient divining tool. Okay, divining tool is something people use to see the future. So like astrology, right? Horoscope. But we had systems that work. Right? We need to know that. All right? Heket. This is the goddess. This is the goddess Heket, and she's, or Hekate. They spell and pronounce her name a few different ways, but she's one of the 8. She's one of the 8. She's the goddess of grains, fertility, death, magic, etc., etc., etc. Now this is important. This is important. All right? Because her nickname was known as the Eye of Re. The Eye of Re. And why that's important is because although this is the Eye of Horus, this is also known as the Eye of Re. So it's important that this woman was known as the Eye of Re. She's also known as the goddess of magic, fertility. This is the sister. This is our rendition of the sister. Now back here you see she got like a frog head. That's because these gods were depicted with frogs' heads, the Agdo. All right, all of them had frogs' heads or snake heads, and then sometimes they did the males with frog heads and the females with snake heads, so on and so forth. All right, but anytime you see them frog heads, that's them. That's the Agdo. All right. Now she's important. That's 64. Now this is the god Khnum. Khnum is actually the one who was said to have created all the men on his pottery wheel from the clay of the earth. All right, and that's her husband, and she holding him down like, you know, good wife supposed to, etc., etc. But she's the one, if you notice, that's actually the star of the show. So even back in the days, black women wasn't getting enough credit, right? She's the one who's actually animating the body with life. That's what the Ankh is. She's animating the body with life. He's just making the body out of the clay. So she's the one actually animating the life. Now, this is the Rhine mathematical papyrus. All right? And you have a Moscow and an Akhmim wooden tablet. These two I just put up here because they back up the Rhine mathematical papyrus. This is a very popular papyrus. They have it in the British Museum. What it does is it shows that the Egyptians used a measurement called the Hecate, or the Hekat, named after that goddess that I was just showing you. This is why this is all important. It's all linked together. Named after that goddess, right? The goddess of magic and seeing and divining and all those lovely things. It's important to know because she was credited with being able to see all and know all, right? That's what that eye is still, the all-seeing eye, is still known to be the all-seeing eye. She's the reason why it's the all-seeing eye, and I'm going to explain to you why right now. This is also used as a volume of measure for size, right? And this is why everything was written in fractions of 64s, because Egyptians did everything based on this number, 64, all right? And it's an important reason, all right? So, bench that. This right here is just an FYI slide. Me being minister, I could not point this out because when I do this, people have material to research. So this I just put here just for research purposes. This is the Smith Papyrus. Every single aspect of Western medicine has been copied badly off of the Smith Papyrus. All right? And between the Ebers Papyrus and the Smith Papyrus, one of them gets credited to being Imhotep's last whatever. But
who's that author in that book?
Robert Rittner. Robert Rittner. But you can just look for this, the Joseph Smith Papyrus, Egyptian Papyrus, and you'll find it however. So I'm sure he's not the only person that wrote the books on it. But that's something that you should have in your archive if you want to understand where medicine came from and how much the Europeans have actually added to the medical canon. Because you read this, you're going to see that they haven't done anything. I'm talking about even from the tools. We use obsidian instead of stainless steel because obsidian actually slices sharper than stainless steel. Like, it's just remarkable how far we were 4,000 or 5,000 years ago and to see where we still are right now. So this is something that you want to just have for your notes. All right? But this is the science. There are 64 paths that energy takes to becoming matter. 64 pathways, and this is a science that we knew 5,000 years ago. Now, the problem where the jealousy comes in, where the hate comes in, where the GMOs come in, where the chemicals comes in, is that you have the ability to do this and nobody else does. You have the ability to partake in this and nobody else does. So we're in a situation where we create reality, but we don't know that we're creating reality. So we have had our minds hijacked by people who cannot, that have to live vicariously through us. So we have to create the world that other people want to live in order for them to want to live in it. So sacred geometry was created as a means for us to be able to understand how energy or charge manifests itself is in how charge manifests, how the spirit becomes flesh, how things that are ideas, intangible, plasma, become physical. That's what that was about. All right? That's what that was about. So we have to see this everywhere. We have to see this everywhere. That's why a chessboard has 64 spaces on it. The science is everywhere. And so hopefully once we see that our science is everywhere, then we'll realize there's no reason to debate. At least not the debates we're having. But this science is old and it's ours. It's old and it's ours. All right? 64 pieces on 64 spaces on the chessboard. And that 64 represents the patterns, possibilities, or changes in life. All right? Because somewhere that I just showed you, in Egypt, in Africa, we knew that there was only 64 possibilities. That's just it. Just 64. So now when we look at this chessboard, and I have to show this, so we can see science, right? There's more than just chess. There's more than just chess. There's mathematics. So now we're dealing with multiplications, we're dealing with size, we're dealing with spacing, and this is music. Once we deal with ratios, we start dealing with fifths and perfect octaves and all that. So this is all this is just in the chessboard. Your woman's period, the 28-day lunar cycle, on the outside of the chessboard. The lunar cycle is how they set the calendars, the clocks, the day. This is your architecture. This is all off the chessboard. This is why they call this the royal game. Right? Now, let's go over here. This game right here is called the Tower of Hanoi, aka the Tower of Brahma. Right? Because we hear about the Brahmins in India. Right? Whenever you start getting too deep into Egyptian history, say, oh no, there was some other Brahmins, they was around the same time. Okay, cool, because they were doing the same thing. All right? So they found this. This is the earliest game of the Brahmins. The Brahmins called this a divining tool. All right? Their priesthood used this. 3 sticks with 64 discs in various combinations to tell what was going to happen in the future. So like when you see the movie 300, and the guy got to climb up the cave and go in there and deal with the oracle, and this is the oracle. This was the oracle. All right? This was where the actual information came from. You had the priests that would work the oracle, but this was the oracle. All right? It's important to know. And the details is up there, the dates, the times, and all that stuff, but it's important to know. The Brahmins, India. Right? Again, the Kama Sutra. Right? The Kama Sutra. 64 possible positions. A lot of times, this stuff right in front of us. Benjamin Banneker. All right? Benjamin Banneker is probably the trickiest black man in American history. That's why every few years they keep re-looking at Benjamin Banneker, adding more stuff on. All right? So the new thing now is that Benjamin Banneker must have been a Dogon. All right? And the reason being is because he knew too much. All right? So have him there to reference the Dogon, but also bring his image up into the mind of everyone that sees the lecture. It's good to know. All right? But the Dogon, the Nomo, all right? They believe that God, the architect of the world, laid out 8 covenant stones and started with 8 ancestors that made up the 8 Dogon clans that would eventually make up society. How's this coincidence? The 8. How's that the coincidence? I mean, at a certain point, all of these things have to come together, right? And some of this stuff, I'll skip the more sciencey stuff because I don't need it. I don't need it. So I can take you through, right, the nation of gods and earths, right? They tell you this number 7. That's the God body. I can take you right through the Bible and show you a list. That's just in Genesis of science surrounding that number 7 in your genealogy, right? I could then take you right back to Egypt and show you how